Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs that we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video. As always, there is a bonus pair in store. We'll go through my trades for the week first, take a look at the dollar, then progress into the analysis. So feel free to use the timestamps below if you do want to skip ahead to a particular pair. But we'll start with my trades for the week. So I did jump into a pound yen position this week. I was anticipating a lot of downside for pound yen, and we did see that. However, I kind of mistimed my entry. Looking back, I could have been a bit more patient with my trade. You can see price did have a big push to the upside. This was actually before the news. Price was already looking pretty bullish, and then I think a couple hours later, then we got the Trump speech, and of course, price had a bit of a wick to the upside. Then it of course collapsed. So yeah, big guy didn't find a re-entry for the position as well. But looking back, I was a bit not patient enough for the trade. But really nice move for pound yen. I think long term there's still a lot of downside for pound yen. We'll get into the analysis about pound yen later in the video, but that was a losing position there for pound yen. Silver, I did take a break even. Price was going my way initially. That was kind of coming from last week, but then price did hit a high, and of course silver absolutely melted as well, which is one of the benefits of looking to manage your trade whilst you're in the position. Otherwise, of course, not every trade is going to end up like this, but sometimes you can be well in profit and you never know, price could reverse against you. So managing a trade can definitely protect you against that. But yeah, silver didn't quite get the push to 35 I was looking for, and we did turn around very, very heavily. And then Aussie CHF, I'm finally out this position now. Price finally hit my long-term targets with this one. If I scoot to the daily chart, yeah, price absolutely melted. I kind of wish I didn't have a take profit at that low, and I kind of just trailed and just closed for the week down here. That'll be better. But again, that's hindsight. You're not going to know that going into the position. But yeah, I did take most of my profit around the lows here initially. Then I just trading the rest above these highs here. And finally, we just had that momentum that came through. And yeah, price is very volatile and smash into that low there. So very happy with the trade. Nice move to the downside. Big swing. Almost 2 months in this position. So I'm happy with that. But yeah, on to the next trade now. But first things first, we'll take a look at the dollar. And then we'll get into Euro USD. So dollar has tapped into an area of interesting potential, because we did have a bit of consolidation here. We had a really strong move to the upside, so a lot of buying pressure from that level. We've tapped into the level. This is the weekly chart, by the way, and we left a big wick to the downside. So potentially we could even see a bullish move from here. Been pretty bearish for the dollar. We did see the continuation this week. Didn't quite get to the low here, but has respected this range, and perhaps it could even start a bullish move there for the dollar. So I'm being a bit cautious with the shorts. I'm looking at the 4-hour time frame. There's two areas which look good for shorts: the break me test of the low here, and of course the tap into that consolidation. We spent a few hours there before we absolutely dropped, so that is an area of interest for me as well. Because of how price is retracing, very strong impulse down, impulse up. I'm very cautious about shorting. I'm not going to short the dollar, but trading USD weakness off this level, because this looks like a big V-shaped pattern, and we just kind of retraced too impulsively, especially taking into consideration where we're coming from. So I'm kind of looking for a slightly deeper retracement for the dollar back into 104. But even if we get there, I might not be looking for such an optimistic move, as in a swing all the way back down to the low, maybe even halfway, just because we're coming into that bullish territory. Perhaps we could reverse, so kind of taking that into consideration, not trying to shoot for the moon when maybe we've got some red flags coming into the market about continuation of the selling pressure. So I do like the sales for the dollar. I'm still bearish. The structure is still bearish. However, we have tapped into bullish territory, which could reverse us. So taking that in consideration, looking for a slightly deeper pullback, also a slower one as well. This was way too impulsive. Like I said, characteristics of a V shape, which normally means reversal. So I want pound, I keep saying pound USD. I want dollar to retrace a little bit further back into 103.8, 104, and perhaps there could be some nice sells there for a couple of days. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for the dollar. In terms of Euro USD, pretty much the exact same situation. If I go to the weekly chart, you can see we tapped into this range here, this consolidation, on our toes, staying reactive to what the market's giving us. We're still very corrective, so we want to sell high where we can get a safe stop loss away from the noise, coming back into areas like such, and then potentially looking to capitalize on a swing. And you can see especially we're looking like we're rejecting the lows really heavily right now, so a pullback is probably likely there with dollar yen. So 149, 149.5, anywhere in this area, shorts look good to me, and a swing back into the low makes sense. So that will be the plan next week for dollar yen. Okay, so now on to dollar CAD. So dollar CAD, again, still pretty bearish with this one. We did get the big break to the downside this week. Big move. But again, on Friday, we kind of recovered a lot of that with the USD strength. And as you can see, it has left and printed a big wick there on the weekly chart. Now, we could potentially go fill the week over the next couple of weeks. Fill the wick over the next couple of weeks. There we go. So we could still see that downside, but again, wicks definitely are a form of rejection, especially in this indication here as well. But we are coming back into a very solid level of resistance. You can see support, support, support. Now, of course, turn resistance. So I want to see how price reacts with this. So far, I'm not the biggest fan of how price is moving. Like I said, with the DXY, we've kind of recovered that bullish momentum very impulsively, which is not what I want to see. I want to see a corrective push to the upside for the dollar. So that still indicates bearish momentum is in control. We're going to see likely the market continue bearish regarding the DXY USD. In terms of dollar CAD, we've seen a very strong push to the upside, almost as impulsive as the move back down. So again, a bit of a red flag. Technically, when we get the impulse pattern, V-shaped patterns are normally a sign of a reversal. So I'm going to be very picky about opportunities in this area. Things look good. We see a lot of wicks. Price slows down. Maybe some fake outs as well. There could be some nice shorts here to take to the downside. I'm not completely ruling out the shorts. Sometimes V-shaped patterns fail, of course. This is still a very solid level of resistance, and I still do expect a lot more downside for dollar CAD in the long term as well. So it's still a nice opportunity. However, the way we have pulled back is definitely a red flag. So be more cautious, be more picky with opportunities. But again, if something does form, looking at some shorts there back into the low. And I would expect 1.4, 1.395, really big level there on the weekly chart. I still think there's a good chance we can come back and retest that. So still bearish for dollar CAD, but like I said, I do have my reservations based on how the market's pulled back. So I'm going to be extra picky in that level. But any shorts from around 1.426 looks good, and we can take it back into the lows if we do see that continuation. But that'll be the plan next week for dollar CAD. Okay, so over to euro pound. So euro pound, very bullish this week. We're favoring some buys. I said it's a bit awkward euro pound, but it did develop. We had a nice level here in the daily chart. I said it wasn't crazy significant level, but there was some prior resistance, which looks like the market was respecting at the time. We came back for a nice double bottom, and we absolutely flew to the upside. Euro was very strong, at least compared. Actually, no, pound was very weak. Actually, euro wasn't that crazy strong. Pound was just very weak this weekend. Of course, that has caused the euro pound to fly, and we've kind of anticipated this because of where we've come into on the weekly time frame. Massive support here, big push to the upside. Of course, you can look to the left. This is generally a strong area of support. It's going to take a lot of momentum for us to break through this, and judging how correctively euro pounds we move into the downside, I think there's always a good chance that price was going to push to the upside. If we were seeing heavy selling pressure on the way down, then maybe the breakout was there. But because we're so corrected, we formed the double bottom a few weeks back. I said we might just be coming back down to retest to continue. I talked about some targets around 0.85, which we've come into now. I still think there's a bit more upside on the cards because, again, we're coming from a big level, which could really turn the market around. So dropping to the lower time frames, now that we've broken through structure here on the left, we have left some nice resistance, which will be turned support. I was going to say that this would be a nice place for a long if price can tap back into that area, but we just kind of continued, and Friday we kept pushing as well. So it's looking a little bit less likely that we'll see a retest of that area next week. More so a retest of the high looks a little bit more realistic, but they both look like really good areas for a buy. I still do see more upside for euro pound. So 0.844 and 0.837 roughly. Look like really nice levels for a long. We're seeing multiple reasons why we could still see more upside. Higher time frames look pretty bullish as well. So I think buys look really good just all around here for euro pound. Now it's just about finding a good pullback for good entry signal, a good risk to reward opportunity that can present itself, because of course euro pound can continue to fly. It doesn't have to necessarily pull back just yet. But those are two areas to keep a close eye on. If we can get some pullbacks, that would be great, and take some longs. But yeah, definitely very bullish for euro pound next week. Keep an eye on those two levels, and targets wherever we form that swing high makes the most sense to me. So over to Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar, it's an interesting one. Very, very bearish week. We took out the lows there. A really aggressive momentum. So the market is definitely bearish right now. Huge daily candle, oversold. It's taken out some major structure. We did that. We actually did that a long time ago. There's still the COVID lows down here. Potentially price might be heading towards. So there is still a lot more downside that could come into play. However, it's difficult to be looking to sell the market right now. We've had an insanely bearish candle, so the market's pretty stretched, pretty oversold. We're taking out some of these lows, which you can see in how the market moves. We tend to create new lows, pull back up, create new lows, pull back up, create new lows. I got a feeling we probably will pull back up for Aussie dollar. I'm saying that with a pinch of salt because there's so much momentum right now and the markets are so volatile. It's not a normal situation in the market. So to be honest, I wouldn't be completely surprised if Monday we see another big bearish candle as big as this. So maybe not as big, but another big bearish candle could very easily happen in this kind of climate of the market. So you have to be very, very careful with that. But I do think this is a nice bullish territory for a buy if you're looking for such a trade. This is a bit more of a mean reversion, counter trend opportunity. If you're looking for something pro trend, if you're looking to follow momentum, then you do want to see a pretty big pullback, preferably more so into this area. This is where we had a lovely pause, big push to the downside, a lot of momentum. We have a retest of that area. There's a good chance sellers will be looking to jump into the market and you probably will get a bit of a reaction. So that's kind of the territory you want to be looking to sell in. Some people might be looking for the breaking test of that low there. I think that's just a bit too early for a pullback, especially when the market tends to break the low and tends to pull back anyway. So I got a feeling that we'll probably get back above this support level next week. Whether we get all the way up there, that's a different question. But I do expect to see a bit of a relief in the market for Aussie dollar. And we've been selling to the downside since, when was that? Since September. So the market hasn't really seen much relief as well. So Aussie dollar, there could be some buys down here. Again, not really trading from a big level of support. You're more anticipating a low forming for the week there. So it's definitely a more aggressive trade. If you're looking for the more conservative trend following opportunity, then you want to wait for a much bigger pullback. The move has already happened. You don't want to be looking to jump into any shorts there unless you're on the very, very smaller time frames and you're only looking for a very small move and for a small duration of time, then you can get away with that. But anything a bit more swing, hourly and above, I would wait for a much bigger pullback there for Aussie dollar, and it could be worth the wait as well. If the trend is going to continue, if we are still going to attack the COVID lows, there could still be a lot more downside there for Aussie dollar. But that is the setups I'm looking at for next week for AUD/USD. Okay, so over to NZD CAD. So very bearish this week. I want to start on the weekly time frame with this one just to show you how big the bearish candle was this week. We completely melted. I was talking about some shorts on the lower time frames, but I didn't quite set up how I wanted it to. And we had the news as well, and price was kind of just chopping around. So it was never really a clear opportunity, but then, hey, the momentum stepped in and the market absolutely melted. I do think there's more downside longer term. I'm still looking at pushback to the low here at 0.768. I do think that's where the market's likely to push into. If I expand to just see the bigger picture of the market, we've been trending to the downside for a while and just looks like that bearish structure is just continuing. So there's always a good chance that we make it back to the price swing low. So I do think that's where the market's going long term. But again, we might not even make that move for another year potentially. NZD CAD is an incredibly slow pair. It does like to chop around big pullbacks as well. So we're not going to be too focused on that low. Just keep that in the back of our minds that that's probably where the market's slowly working away towards. What we can see though is that we're trading into some support on the left. We didn't quite break through this level. You can see just about before the weekly candle close. We did pull back up and leave a bit of a wick there. So there might be a bit of a relief next week. Again, there's a lot of momentum, so take that with a pinch of salt. We very much could open up bearish and keep falling. That could easily happen as well. But again, now's not the time to be jumping into sells when the market's completely bled, taking up major lows, very stretched. Again, if you're in the lower time frames, you might catch a nice trade for maybe on the 5-minute chart for maybe a few candles. I say that the market could really drop, but again, you're not looking for a lot. You're just looking to take advantage of the current momentum, and that's it. If you're looking for a bit more of a swing position, you do definitely need to see a bit of a pullback. And there's a couple of areas which I do like. First of all, this area looks very nice. Of course, very unlikely we get there, but if we did somehow, I think that would be a nice place for a short. I also like the low here as well. And I also like the low here as well. So these are the areas I'm looking at for NZD CAD to pull back into. Like I said, I'm still pretty bearish with this one, but a pullback is a must before I do find any entries. So these are the areas I'll be looking for price to pull back into, and hopefully find some shorting opportunities and look for some entries at as well. So if we can get some entries from, what was this, 0.812, 0.808, and 0.804, those areas I'm looking to sell from. There could be some buys as well. You know, price has taken out some big liquidity there. It might now need some retracement. So potentially if we create some support next week around tier, start to respect the lows very well, maybe a nice double bottom forms, there could be some buys to take. Again, more of an aggressive trade, trying to call the bottom. You're going against a lot of momentum. The least resistance is to the downside. However, we did fire a bit of a wick to the downside as well. So that is a bit of a red flag too. But there's more rejection to the upside. So that's the key thing to note. Rejection to the downside, yes, but we're seeing a lot more to the upside, and we're also testing a more significant area as well. And we're also putting these major lower highs. One over there, second over there. To me, it looks like potentially a third is forming. This trend line has been obeyed pretty well. So if that continues, we're likely to fall over anyway. So that's why I'm expecting the move to the downside, even despite bit of reaction on the weekly chart there. So the plan for next week is to see if we can form a lower high, because there's kind of like a big double top here. So one over there, second over there, push down, and now we form some resistance. I want to see if price can start to respect that now, potentially form a lower high, then roll over. And then the beautiful thing about this opportunity is that there's just so much room for us to move into. If I measure from that resistance to that support, there's like a 600 pip move there. If you even if you get a 100 pip stop loss, you could be looking at 1 to 6 or maybe a 1 to 5. Didn't necessarily have to have supports, have targets at the support, but you could be looking at a very handsome risk reward here. So that's why I like it. And of course, the break opportunities are there as well, holding positions further than that. But there's a lot of downside opportunity. Again, we tried to break to the downside this week, but a lot of wicks there on the 4-hour chart as price is kind of breaking through support, but having second thoughts about that. So the key thing is that we need to be keeping up these lower highs. If the market breaks the upside again like so, there might be some more shorts back at the high there, because again, you're anticipating another wick to form in the weekly chart, but more so I'm expecting a lower high to form. So that's my main interest, but I would also say keep an eye at the high there too. But yeah, still very bearish in Euro Yen. I'm bearish across the board on the Yen pairs. It does look like Yen strength is in the market at the moment, and looking to continue that. And these are two opportunities which look good with good risk rewards as well, especially if you're looking to swing a trade. I think Euro Yen's got very good potential. It almost has to kind of catch up with the other Yen pairs. But yeah, Euro Yen shorts look pretty good. 162, sorry, is the level, or 164 if you do push back to the high. So yeah, that's the plan next week for Euro Yen. And that does, guys, bring us to the end of the analysis. If you have found it useful, enjoyed it, informative, please be sure to drop a like. Drop a comment down below any pairs you're looking to trade next week. I'm interested to find out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. Hit the bell as well so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. And check out the Elevating Traders Discord channel, completely free to join. Join the community, chat with other traders, chat with myself. If you are interested, make sure you do check it out. But guys, really appreciate you tuning in this week. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you all in the next one.